Welcome to the Cabin Culture Podcast, where we spend a little bit more time diving deeper into all the fun parts of cabin culture. We like to think of this as both the material and imagined expressions of how cabin lovers, dwellers, builders, and designers wish to live a more simple and authentic life. On this episode, we chat with Levi Kelly, who you've probably seen on YouTube if getting tours of some of the most unique cabins and short-term rentals in the country is something you're into, or as host of his show, AirBNB on the Design Network. His high-quality video work and incredible destinations captured the attention of folks on YouTube early, inspiring his passion for creating, and maybe to the detriment of his 9-to-5 job at the time. He shares with us his transition to becoming a full-time YouTuber, some of his favorite stays he's captured, and what the heck is going on in the Ohio cabin market. All this and his experience designing and renovating his own tiny house that's now available for rent on AirBNB. Thanks for joining us and hope you enjoy this episode of Cabin Culture.
Well, first of all, we're so excited to have you here. We all have been longtime followers. We know your work, obviously, in the cabin world. So to get to chat and hear a bit more behind the camera is really fun for us.
Yeah, that was fun.
Can you give us an introduction for those who might not know you, or even those who do, an introduction to what you would consider your job title to be as of today, right now, in this moment, and then just a brief description of what you do?
Definitely consider myself a YouTuber. It's what I wanted to be before I even became a YouTuber, I guess. What I do is I tour what I would say unique and fun short-term rentals all across the United States. And that's about
awesome.
it.
Yeah, about it. That's an understatement. Okay. So little known fact, but I actually run a video production company in my real life outside of cabins.
Oh, very
cool. And that's probably why I found your work earlier than a lot of folks, just because I really value the medium of video, and YouTube is clearly a great space for that. But you mentioned to us that you started off wanting to be involved in movies and a filmmaker. So can you take us way back to when you got into video, aside from cabins, and where the filmmaking part of it started for you?
Yes. It started back in high school. I'm 25 right now, so 7 or 8 years ago. Started back in high school. I got a camera, and just for the sole purpose to make videos, funny videos and stuff. So then after really loving that, I wanted to, the next step in my mind was okay, people make movies, and I wanted to do that too. I liked movies. I looked into it and how to even begin that. I live in Ohio, and Ohio University has a really nice screenwriting production program. When I was in college, I applied to that. I got accepted. I declined it to stay because I was already in my town, and I was working a lot with video in my town. I'm if I leave, I'm just going to lose all that money and clients. So I'm this is working out for now. We'll just keep doing that. I started working for a marketing company in my town full time, and then I started YouTube stuff in the middle of that. Got fired from my job from YouTube stuff, and then just continued doing YouTube stuff.
We need to stop there.
What did you do?
Did you get fired because of YouTube stuff?
Yes, I did. Yes. Well, So it was an email marketing company, and I was shooting. I don't think they liked that I was kind of shooting these YouTube videos. I was really prioritizing that over what I was doing. And then business kind of got mixed between everybody, and they didn't like it, and they just fired me. So I was okay, whatever. I was kind of planning on leaving anyway because the YouTube stuff was working out really well. So it worked out perfectly.
Yeah. I will say I started my business when I was fired from my job as well. So I do think that making that jump where you have a part-time hobby and you're like, okay, I want to take this full time, but it's really scary. And so someone else making that choice for you in some ways is the most liberating thing. You're well, I have no choice. I'm either going to make this work or I have to go find another 9-to-5.
Yes, exactly. No, it was great. I mean, yeah. Overall.
So what kind of YouTube content were you making at that point?
In the beginning, so it took me, I was uploading for 8 months before, anything even happened. And I was uploading just whatever. Had a schedule, just 2 videos a week. They can be about whatever, as long as I get them out. Eventually, something might happen. And then I did a couple of tiny house tours just because I was interested in my area. And then the third one I did was a container home, and that one is the one that blew up and got millions of views. And then ever since
Was
after
that the
that,
box top one?
yeah, it was a box top, and I lived like an hour away from that. And then ever since after that, I was like, well, I got to keep doing this. So and then the videos after that, they did all really well too. And then, you know, and then a couple months after that, or maybe like a month after that or something, is when I got fired. So it was like really
okay. So you were doing the cabin stuff already.
Yeah.
When you got fired.
Yes.
Okay.
I had 30,000 subscribers, and that was my full-time job living, which is not a lot.
Not a lot of subscribers?
Well, overall, to make like a full-time job and pay for everything I was doing.
Yeah. I mean, I was really proud of my 511 subscribers until just now.
Oh, hold on.
It is tough.
Janice, I thought you told me you had 511,000 subscribers. You have 511. Are you kidding me?
No, Justin, I have 511.
Right before this call, I was like, wow, Janice, I can't believe I didn't know you had all these. Wow, so you have 511, period.
I thought you were impressed by my 511, so now I feel sad. So if you're listening, go subscribe to us on YouTube. We have no continuous content.
I take back all my enthusiasm.
Does your cabin channel have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, it does. I started it because I'm familiar with YouTube from what I do in my real job. And I was like, oh, I'll just put our cabin tour up here. And that one has a lot of views. But unlike you, that is the only cabin tour I have to post. So now I'm out of content.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make a YouTube channel just for one cabin.
We're going to post all these on here too, so that folks can find it. Just if they're Googling for cabin content, or they're Googling your name or whatever, they'll be able to find it and it'll draw them to the podcast. But that's
55,000
really
views. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Is it? You're the expert. I love that you just looked this up. See, I should be proud, Justin.
No,
it's hard to get views. It's hard. 55,000. That's hard.
Okay, so question, because Ohio is this weird place where, like, prior to a year ago,
Ohio is a weird place.
Well, maybe you can tell me more about the weirdness. The weirdness that I'm observing is that I would never have thought of Ohio as like a hub of cabin culture. It just like wouldn't correlate in my mind. But they're making such a name for themselves, and so many cool spots are coming out of Ohio. Can you tell us about what you've observed of the cabin scene and the cabin culture in Ohio specifically?
Yeah, no, I get that all the time. It's like, what's all these cabins doing in Ohio? It's like, who wants to go to Ohio? But if there's a pocket of what I've noticed, there's definitely pockets of Airbnbs all over the United States. You know, Joshua Tree, California, Waco, Texas, places like that just are loaded with them. And one of them is Hocking Hills, Ohio, which is just a state park in southern Ohio. And it gets like 3 million visitors a year or something. It gets the same amount as Yellowstone National Park every year. So huge tourist area, kind of, and very underdeveloped. So really easy to get property and build kind of whatever you want. There used to be like no code restrictions really for building. Now there is, but that's how people get really cool stuff.
That's the thing about Ohio in particular, I think, is that there's like pretty cozy cabins all over. But the ones that I see in Ohio are like built into a cave or right on a waterfall. They're just like out there. They're very different. Yeah.
And property has to be something with that, because you're actually able to, people have property that have cool features to them. Like I'm sure out west, you know, it's hard to get property. So, and then hard to build anything.
And what's the landscape in Ohio? Is it, I mean, I guess I'm just not super familiar with it, but is it mostly flat? Is there like mountains? Is it a lot of wood, like thick woods or plain? I mean, what is it kind of in general?
Yeah. So in southern Ohio is the start of Appalachia. So rolling hills, very wooded. Northern Ohio is all farmland, and like western Ohio is farmland. And then you got Cuyahoga, like up by the lake. That's pretty popular. I mean, there's a national park in northern Ohio, but it's the worst national park.
What is it called?
It's Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
Okay. Never heard of it.
Yeah,
never heard of it.
But more national parks than we have over here, so still good.
Just travel up north. Travel up north to Maine, Justin. You'll find Acadia,
I
one
got
of the
Maine.
most beautiful.
Oh yeah, true. What am I saying? I'm sorry. I'm speaking for. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're the only ones up north. So worth the drive. Come to Maine. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about cabin culture, because I feel like cabins have this like special pull for a lot of people, and almost everyone who feels that pull in one way or another has like a story of when they first discovered cabins and what brought them there. Do you remember, was it that tiny house that you filmed, or was it something else? Like, how far back does it go for you?
Probably during whenever I was filming my first tiny houses, in high school. For some reason, I feel like that's whenever tiny houses became way more mainstream. You see them on the news. There's other YouTube channels that feature just exclusively tiny homes. And I was like, man, I was really interested into it as well. So I needed to go check them out myself. So I got some tiny homes. Cabins, I think, are like their own genre. Coziness, the feeling you get when you're at a cabin. People are all about their feelings, and cabins can definitely trigger some feelings, and that's what people like. Some warm, cozy, just makes you feel something.
I love that description. People are all about their feelings, and cabins make you feel something.
When you got into those tiny homes there, was that something that you were just traveling and you went to a tiny home and you decided to record it? Or did these guys reach out to you like, oh, hey, Levi, I love what you do. Can you come give us a house tour? Like, I guess, like, how was that initial step into this whole space?
Yeah, I just booked them as a regular guest, and I went there. I brought, one of my friends to help me film. And I remember the first one we did was a tiny house, and I just remember saying, man, this could be like a whole YouTube genre thing. It's like untapped. Because like people are touring luxury homes and tiny houses. I'm like, somebody could just do this on Airbnb, and that would be like the new thing. I remember.
Do you remember the first place that was maybe outside of Ohio that you like traveled to stay at?
The first
content purposes.
For when it got like more serious, my first trip I took was to New York and Massachusetts, in that area, and I did like the black A-frame that's been around for, I think that's the name of it.
Yeah,
that one's been around for a while. I did that one and a couple others, and they all did really well. I was like, if this trip can pay for itself, then I'm going to just keep doing it.
Yes. Can you imagine, guys, if Levi Kelly was like accidentally one of your guests and just sent you a video like that and was like, here, I just filmed this while I was staying at your cabin. What a gift.
I don't even send it to him. I didn't even know.
What?
Back then, at least. Because I would just post it. Yeah. Sometimes people would message me like months later, a year later, hey, I just saw this video. Great job. One time I had a guy request that I take it down.
I was
Why?
going to ask if someone got upset with it just for whatever personal reason.
Tell us more about that.
I think people got upset, but they would never say anything. Like I could just tell, like they weren't too enthused about it. But because I like filmed it without them knowing, but some guy he sold his house, he sold it, and then wanted me to take the video down. I was like, it doesn't affect anything. I'll just remove your Airbnb link because it doesn't even work anymore.
Right.
But
right. Oh man, to me, I just can't even imagine. I remember someone messaging me on Instagram and being like, FYI, you're going viral over on Reddit. And I was like, Reddit? How do I use that? How do I even like see what's going on? And it was a photo that Dirt and Glass had posted, and it was like getting all these views. And my first reaction was just like, holy shit, thanks guys. Like, what a win. I can't imagine being upset.
Yeah, Dirt and Glass they're big. That's kind of what happened with my first video that went viral. Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, tweeted out the link to the video, and then it got a bunch of views after that. He didn't even say anything. It was just like the link. It is random, and I got a message saying, "Hey, I just saw Jaden tweet out your video. Congrats!" I was like, "Who's Jaden?"
So you're boys with Jaden now, is what you're saying?
I am boys with Jaden. I messaged him on Instagram.
Nice.
He's never replied.
Okay. This is like my relationship with Jimmy Kimmel. I need him to send, he follows us and I can't figure out why. And he was like very early on, but I need him to send out the link to some people.
Really?
Did he ever say
that? I can tell you after.
How to get it done? What? Are you friends with Jimmy?
No, I'm not friends with them.
Oh, okay. It's my life dream to get him to respond to one of my messages. It has yet to happen. He has seen a couple of them. But...
Really? That's a move forward.
Yeah, I know. I'm making progress one step at a time. Okay, but like take me back to that first. So tiny homes were really the entrance point for you, which actually makes a lot of sense being that you're 25, because I feel like I'm a little bit older than that. And in your generation, I feel like tiny homes were really this big thing. And now you are building slash have built your own, correct?
Yes, yes, I have my own now.
And are you
But
Airbnb-ing it or are you living there?
it will be on Airbnb.
Okay.
No, I have a
It,
me, my wife, and my kid. That'd be tough.
yeah. If you're dreaming about a cabin build, or are in the midst of a build, or you just bought a place and are getting ready to host for the very first time, regardless of where you are, sometimes you just need a little help along the way. Shared experiences from someone who's been there, advice from someone who's learned a lot of lessons the hard way. That's me. Or a cheerleader as you finish up. All of these reasons are exactly why I started offering cabin consultations to our Instagram followers and friends who could use some specific one-on-one help. I can't promise to solve all your problems, but I can promise to be transparent about our build costs and process, our organization and project management systems, our favorite and least favorite tools for renting, how we market, and how we found ourselves with almost 80,000 Instagram followers and 100% occupancy in our first year of hosting at Cozy Rock. So if that sounds like it might help you, feel free to visit us at staycozycabin.com or on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin and sign up for a time to chat there. What was it about tiny homes that did it for you? What was, the feeling that you described of people being about their feelings when you were in the tiny home? Like, can you describe what it was about being in a small space that sounds miserable to a lot of people, but like, what was that feeling that you got?
It's just the idea that you could have everything inside of such a tiny space and it's all laid out perfectly for you. And it's like when how like kids love when they get refrigerator boxes or like washer and dryer boxes and they play in them. It's kind
Yeah.
of like that same little feeling, I guess. But just the interesting aspect of it and how it all works. And then you see like the tiny house books and they're all beautiful. Like they try to make them really beautiful looking instead of just like I don't know, shed. I don't know. But the art of making it look really pretty, I like as well.
Yeah. And you have to be so intentional with the space because there's not a lot of it. So how did you approach that with your tiny home? How hard was that for you to like figure out how to be really intentional with such a small space?
Luckily, we bought a tiny house on wheels and we just renovated it, so kind of the layout was already
Okay.
there.
Okay. That
And
makes it
that was
easier.
just it wasn't the original plan, but the opportunity we just didn't want to pass it up because this tiny house for wheels it was for sale like a mile down the road from us, and we were trying to do something right there at that moment. So I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we'll just do this.
And was
Yeah.
that like the
Yeah.
first renovation you had taken on was on that one, or had you done previous renovations in the past, or was that kind of your first hands-on experience?
It was my first major hands-on experience. I helped renovate the house I'm living in a little bit, but then I really did most of the work for this tiny house we did, and that's fun. I like to call myself a professional homeowner, learning all the ins and outs of renovation
Yes.
and fixing well pumps and stuff. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
good skills. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. How have you, because you've been touring all these Airbnb spaces specifically as like your niche on YouTube. And so that has to, not only have you just like filmed them, but you've also stayed there. So how has that shaped your experience now that you're creating your own Airbnb about like must haves, things that you were like, I absolutely need to do this because it's what I've seen done really well, or things you definitely didn't want to do? How did you basically use all
Yes.
of that experience to shape what you're doing?
Yes, that is like the one thing me and my wife talk about all the time is how are some places so desirable and some just they're just not it. And a lot of it
Yeah.
just comes down to just how they design the place interior design wise. Sometimes I'll see places they have like their bedroom and it's just all white. There's nothing on the walls. There's nothing. They don't even have a rug. I'm like, man, this is just like stale. Who would want to stay in the stale room? So we really wanted to make a place cozy and look beautiful, but also feel uh, beautiful as well when you're in there. And it's not like, oh, it
Mm-hmm.
just looks good on photos, but when you get there, it's like weird and wonky kind of. And we
Yeah.
didn't want it to be like just like I don't know, typical, I guess, because some styles are really I don't know. So we just try to do something a little different, a little cozy, mid upper level luxury. So that's just why we went into it. As for like or amenities, that's tough because the amenities that people love are like unique ones, like the cave house, or
Hmm.
having a waterfall in the backyard and you like incorporate seating around that or whatever. And
Yeah.
people can't do that, or not everybody can do that. So
Right. We're
Which
not
kind of
all
like
lucky enough to have a waterfall in our backyard.
You
exactly.
guys
which I
have
think
a pond
it is
at the tiny house, correct?
We do have a pond. That is one of the reasons we bought that property. There's a pond.
Oh. How big is the
So
property?
6 acres.
Oh, nice. Do you have dreams of expansion and putting more than one on it or living there, or what are your plans for it? That's a lot of land.
Yes. If this one goes really well, there's another spot we could do for another tiny house. I'd like to do another tiny house. And then maybe we'll just see if that happens.
Yeah. Okay, I have more questions about interior design. Did you all do the interior design yourself?
For the tiny house, yeah. Have you seen photos of it?
I have. I've been
Okay.
following it on because you posted some progress stuff on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I just posted photos of it on my story. So I didn't know if you
Yeah.
saw that or not.
Oh, you just posted some? I might not have seen them.
No, no,
Okay, so
no.
my question, I've always hired an interior designer because I find interior design very challenging. I know what I like, and when I'm in a good space, I'm immediately like, yes, this is it. But to create that with all of the like 75 decisions you have to make for it to like be a
Yeah, yeah.
cohesive feel, I just find it's not in my wheelhouse. So what advice would you have for someone who isn't hiring an interior designer and doing it themselves? Maybe even already has an Airbnb, but could make some tweaks on the interior design side. What I hear rugs is important for what you just said, but what else would you advise?
Yes. If you don't know anything, just copy somebody else. Yeah, that sounds horrible. Don't copy exact, but take what they did. Tiled shower. What type of tiling did they use? Even if
Mm,
you use the exact same tiling, exact same mirror, your bathroom's going to look different because it's just a different layout. Or, just look at the rugs they use, look at the furniture, what type of seating is really common in these Airbnbs that are like booked all the time. Or, if there's a fireplace there, how did they dress that all up? And then, kitchen design as well. You can definitely tell from like a 90s or early 2000s kitchen to like, something you'd see on Instagram now, and just figure out where and how they did that. And it's going to cost money, but
And
that's
yeah.
what you want.
do you find yourself on Facebook Marketplace a lot, or doing some nice weekend antiquing? Because I'm a big fan of antiquing.
We did do some antiquing. So our dining table's antiqued and the chairs in our tiny house. But we found a color palette that we like, and it came with like 8 different colors to choose that go all together. And it said, "Do your walls this color, cabinets this color, bathroom this color," and that's what we did. And that's like one of our most complimented things is the colors of the bathroom and kitchen cabinets. Because our kitchen
That was
cabinets aren't special. We just
they are
got
special or
antique.
are not.
They're not. That we kept those. They're just like regular ones you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot, but we got like gold knobs and painted them the color and added like a design feature on the end of it that was exposed, and I think that really tied it all together.
I mean, honestly, changing the hardware and the paint color. We just moved into a new old house in Hillsboro, and that's what I did over the last week. I couldn't stand the kitchen, and I didn't replace the cabinets or do anything big. I just painted all of them and switched out the hardware and put in a rug, and it was like it was perfect. I feel
Yes.
like the advice my interior designer gave me that I've found most helpful is you have to pick like one statement piece that you like first. You can't have like 5 competing pieces. So that might be a rug that you love with bold colors, or it might be a piece of artwork on the wall, or in our case, it was a very colorful rocking chair. And
Yeah.
then that's the like focal piece, and then pull colors from that and figure out where you're going to accent and like tie it together. Again,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother skill that is very hard. But I liked that of like, you can't find 12 things you love. Pick one that you love and then start designing around that.
Yes. They all have to be cohesive. That's good.
I
Yeah.
think there's there's either like a statement or a line or something that like no design is new. It's always recycled from, someone else. So
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
thought that like just copy someone, that's the way to do it. At least to start and try and apply it to your space. And I think that's where some of like the unique characteristics come in, because you have different challenges than everyone else in their spaces, and that requires creative solutions for that space. So yeah, always starting with kind of the base inspiration for something and making it your own is the way to go.
There we go. Can you see that?
Oh,
That's
nice.
the bed
So
upstairs.
I
yeah,
love
this is
that
the
railing. I
loft.
did see that. Yeah.
Yes. So that, I mean, I saw that on somebody else's Instagram, and I mean, I just applied it to my own place.
But see,
But
I saw it here first, so now you're the first guy to have it. So
I
now I
know,
see.
me
Yep,
too.
now
I
I
had
see
never seen
theirs.
something like that.
oh, hey,
Oh,
there we
somebody
go.
stole it from you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you have any concern though? Because I do. We get so many messages asking where we source certain things or what our paint colors are, and I'm happy to answer them. But there is a part of me that's always like, wait, I don't want the cabin world to just become like
The same.
copies of each other. And so do you see way more than I do? I'm just scrolling on Instagram. We spend all of our time at our own cabin. So from what you've noticed going to these unique spaces, are you starting to see a lot of similar things, or are the ones you're going to a bit like they're really working hard to do something different and so you're not seeing that? Do you have any concern about that?
Yes, I do. No, that is the challenge. Always trying to do and find something new and better is tough. I think the Magnolia style is really that's been like done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and ours is kind of similar, I would say, in that category, but not exactly. But that's been overkill. So, I get some comments on my YouTube page saying, "Man, the interiors are just all the same that you feature." I'm like, "Yeah, because they just look good." But I know I
Yeah.
want to do other, good styles. And hard part is just finding other places that have done their styles really, really well.
Hey guys, this is Justin from the Chalet. If you're not already listening to this podcast in a cabin or on your way to one, I'd just like to take a second to let you know that our spring calendar is open, along with a few winter nights to get that last minute ski trip in before the season ends. I'd also like to remind you that our A-frame comfortably sleeps up to 6 guests. We're located just 10 minutes to Mount Snow, 15 minutes to Stratton Mountain, and we're surrounded by tons of trailhead access, including the famous Long Trail. Oh, and the food and drink scene here in Vermont is incredible, since most of it's either raised, crafted, caught, or brewed locally, so you definitely don't want to miss out on this. But to learn more, you can find a link to our page in the show notes below. We hope to see you soon, and enjoy the rest of the show.
I do find that it's rare to find places that look good and have a clear stamp of personality. Like you get a feel
Yeah.
for that cabin owner when you see the cabin. And it is harder to come by these days because Pinterest and Instagram can flood you with ideas that look good. And you can become Layla, my associate producer, is becoming a little frustrated.
Yeah.
But you can become stuck in just like duplicating or replicating what you've seen other places and then just forget to step back and be like, wait, what do I like? What makes my heart happy? What do I want my cabin to look like that's different?
Yeah.
Justin and Sean, did you do anything in your cabin that you feel like, I have a thought from following your cabin of what it might be, but was there anything at your cabin that you felt like this is my stamp of personality?
I mean, unfortunately, we do have white walls, which is this is the second podcast that has
That's not a problem.
shot down white walls. We do have white walls. I'm a big fan of white walls. But yeah, I mean, we have like our staircase, the monostringer stair we got done by a local welder, which is super cool. Big headache, but really unique. And then, we got some local art on the walls and stuff. Because my biggest thing was like, the challenge is like when you're building a short-term rental, it's like all you're thinking about is putting it on the market. It's like, what's accessible to you to fill it with, and it's like all the same Target stuff, and like it's all the same stuff. So it's like if you have the time to like search, antique shops or Facebook Marketplace to find these unique pieces and really start sourcing all this over time, which we did kind of in the beginning of the build. We got like a local wood shop to do an island and like all this other stuff. But that's the unfortunate part is all the things that are accessible to me is accessible to everybody. So like everyone's kind of getting the same stuff. And it's like, a lot of times you don't think about the sofa until you're ready to put a sofa. And now it's like, well, what do I have? Okay, here's my 3 options. It's the same as everybody else. And it's tough. So I don't blame anybody unless you're a designer, but it is tough. So you got to think about these things way ahead of time. And yeah.
Well,
Kinda just
and
look
I
around.
did an Instagram live a while ago with someone who talked about business model, and she was talking to photographers, but I have not stopped thinking about it since. And we applied it to cabins, but this idea of like knowing which category you're in. And so the top one is like, she calls it the unicorn. The idea being like you are creating this really high end, very unique custom brand, and you can expect to charge more for it, but your clients are also going to expect more for it, right? Like if you go to Louis Vuitton, you might expect to be handed champagne when you walk in the door because you're paying, I don't even know, $1,000 for a t-shirt. But and then there's a workhorse, which is like still really nice. And I think of cabins like a workhorse being like, I might buy my stuff at Target, but it is really well designed and it looks really good and it's a nice experience. And then there's the third one is a donkey, and she describes it as like, it could be all the like arbitrage that you're seeing, right? You're just an apartment in a city, but it's a nice place to stay. It's fine. Turnover pays your bills, not necessarily like unique experience. And it seems like, Levi, you live in that unicorn world. And for those cabins, it really is kind of required that you have some notable signature pieces, or guests aren't willing to pay that much more if it's just like every other Airbnb.
Yeah, I try to find the unicorn ones. No, those are definitely tough to come by. The cave house I just uploaded, that's definitely unicorn. But
They just
that's-
opened, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Brand new. So, but that's
Yeah, that
definitely
place
my
looks
goal
insane.
for next year too, is focusing on more what you would say the unicorn spots.
How do you find them? How would people find them
It's
if that's what
tough.
they wanted to go to? Yeah. Your YouTube
Um,
channel, that's how they find them.
Yeah, my YouTube. No, I just search on Airbnb for hours upon hours and Instagram and such. And then I have some saved. It's just finding the right times to go out. They're just so like spread out too. Because I
Yeah.
try to make my trips worth my like money and time. So I try to do a bunch in one area.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of hard. So
Which brings me to the question I have. I'm sure a lot of folks listening who own cabins might have the same question. What does your business model look like? Are people hiring you to come to their cabins? Because that gets tricky, right? You don't have control over it. Or are you picking and just going? How does that work?
you just see me spit out my eyes right there. But
Only if you're
the-
watching on YouTube will you see that.
yeah. My business model is probably not the best one because I used to ask for money, but now I don't. And, it's kind of silly, but I will reach out and I'll ask for like a night or two. And then, they typically say yes, or sometimes they say no. Like they're just not even interested a lot of the times. And then I'll go out and film and I'll upload in my. I've been trying to plan a trip in Joshua Tree, and I've had like half the people just say no. It's
Why?
really
Do they
tough.
not know who you are?
I send them my stuff.
It's like free, amazing marketing. Why would they say no? Anyway.
It is free marketing. Except I ask for free night. Like I don't book the nights anymore.
Which you should
So-
absolutely get a free night if you're creating that kind of content for them.
Yes.
You should get
Yeah,
more than one free night, but anyway.
I want to pay. But so then my money all comes from YouTube, really. So I do sponsorships on my YouTube videos. Sometimes you'll see, and of course, just YouTube ad revenue, and those two things. Right now, if make up most of it.
So doing it for free, does that give you more creative control? Because it's like if people were paying you, then it becomes like a client-driven business where it's harder to say no to stays, and someone might message you and it's not all that special, and you're like, well, I don't really want to dilute my YouTube channel by putting a very average stay on it. So does this give you more control?
Yes. So, I get emails all the time, people wanting to pay me to come out and feature their Airbnb, but it's just nothing that I'd want to film or even feature on my channel. So I just can't do it. So yeah, I'll have to turn those people down. Down
So
the
now,
money.
is that your little one in the background?
Oh, can you hear him? Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name?
Weston. He's downstairs. He's causing probably a ruckus.
I love it. How old is he?
1 and 4 months.
Okay. I loved in your pre-interview, for those listening, we send out a little pre-interview questionnaire so we get to know folks. And for your job title, you said YouTuber and father, which I loved.
Yes, that takes up much more of my time.
Yeah.
Than the
I'm a
YouTube
19-month
videos.
old
But
myself. It's tough.
yeah.
Oh yeah. 19-month-old.
How old
crazy.
is How old is your daughter, Justin? I forget.
19 months. I always lose track. I've been saying, I don't know, like 16 months for too long, and my wife just corrected me last night. She's like, she's 19 months now. I'm like, okay. But
So almost the exact same age, your little ones.
Yeah. He doesn't come with me though.
Oh, not yet. Maybe when he gets older.
Not yet.
Assistant cameraman.
Yes. Assistant
Okay.
actor.
Yeah. Or actor. So you've stayed at so many cool spaces. Can you tell us about one or two of your all-time favorites?
The two all-time favorites are the Cave House, I just featured on my YouTube channel. They had a 1,500 square foot cave on their property that they converted to a house. The whole front side is glass. The interior, going back to interior design, is called Dark Academia, and it is just such a good interior design and not hardly ever done. So tips if you
Gothic
want to
style is
go
awesome.
do one of those. Yes. And the other one would be, it's also in Hocking. Both of these are in Hocking Hills, Ohio. The other one would be called The Cliffs. I don't know if you've guys seen them. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
classic.
yes.
They have a waterfall in their backyard and turned it into a heated swimming hole, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Both in Ohio, which goes back to our first question about like what the heck is going on in Ohio.
Both in Ohio, and yeah.
But have you been to Maine yet, though?
I have been to Maine. I featured one spot in Maine. It's
Oh,
the Sky Frame. Don't know if you know them.
no.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to look them up, though. Where in Maine was it?
It was way down south by the border. I forget.
Okay. Was it The Way Life Should Be?
The Way Life Should Be.
Yeah, that's our state motto. Did you know that?
No, he didn't know that, Janice.
You didn't know that, Justin?
No, I knew that. I'm from Massachusetts.
Okay.
He doesn't know that because he's from Ohio. And
He's from
Maine
Ohio.
is-
I mean,
It was The Way
If we-
Life Should Be.
good. We didn't disappoint. I think that's the best state motto that ever existed, partially because I just really feel that way. Whenever I come home to North Carolina, I always like, my heart misses Maine. And I'm like, that is the way life should be. But also just what good marketing for your state. I think it's great. So you'll have to come back. We can continue to show you the way life should be.
Beautiful state.
Yeah. Okay, so Airbnb is in a weird growth stage. Probably has been for a couple of years, although COVID threw like a really weird twist in there. What have you seen and observed? When did you start your YouTube channel?
Before COVID. Right before COVID.
Okay, so like
2019.
2019.
Huh.
So what have you observed in the growth of Airbnb during that time? What do you think that they're getting right? What do you think they're getting wrong? What do you hope they change as they continue to grow? What are your thoughts on that?
What do I think they're getting right? I like their, well, first off, the chat, I feel like a lot of people are getting more into the unique Airbnb world aspect, trying to really make a full-time job out of their Airbnbs. It's working for a lot of people, not working for a lot of others. So I see a big growth in that. And then just the market getting really saturated. The market for if you live in an area where people like Airbnbs, that'd probably stink.
Yeah.
Getting all the homes bought for Airbnb purposes. Or the thing I think they're doing right, they just made the change of categories, or I think it's what it's called on their site.
Yeah.
I would like to say I gave them that idea because I worked with Airbnb before they did that on like a couple videos, and I was like begging them to do something like that because it just made searching for Airbnb so much easier. So, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's kind of cool," or whatever. And then like a year later, it happened. So I was like, "There we go."
Yes.
Anyway,
Well, thank you. That is a
Tell you
good ad. I
That
remember during
algorithm.
COVID thinking what they needed was like, you could answer a couple questions like, how many people are you traveling with a pet? And what is your radius? So it could be like anywhere, like the most I'm willing to travel is a 5-hour drive, and then have them like give you like the top 5 spots that are available for your dates that you could go look at. Because during COVID, we weren't traveling to like go to busy
Yeah.
places. We were traveling for the place that you're staying in.
exactly. Yeah, now you can only do it on the map now. You can like just expand the map, and that's really all it shows.
Yeah.
But I wish there was, since you said top 5 places, there needs to be a way to sort the Airbnbs either by closest to you, brand new, like when they were uploaded, or price. If you can do a sort by price, descending or ascending, they have no way of doing that. And it's some Airbnbs, they never show up because for some reason, for these purposes, and they're like
I'm not
popular
in there.
Airbnbs.
Yeah, we're not shown on cabins because they require, what's the requirement? They require your calendar to be fully open to show you. And we only open a season at a time. And so we
Really?
can't be included in it.
Oh,
And
is
we're
that
never going to
why?
open it because we need to like book our own stays first. So we just have to like control the calendar.
So I
Man,
wonder
that's
if
good to
why
know,
we're
'cause
still
I
not
was
on
thinking-
A-frame yet.
Yeah, So maybe that's the reason, because a lot of people only do it for like 3 months or 6 months out.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So that's probably a good reason. Because I was like, I know there's an Airbnb. I zoom in right to where they're located on the address. I'm like, they just don't show up. I'm like, why
Yeah.
is that?
Well, and have you launched yours yet?
No.
Okay, because it is a different experience, I will say. I don't know that I traveled on Airbnb very much before I was a host. So I know Airbnb almost exclusively as a host. I hosted in my house like 7 years ago, and then my first cabin, and now my second and third cabins. And so I do travel using it now, but I've always known it first and foremost as a host. And I do think there seems to be a very different relationship with Airbnb if you're a traveler versus if you're a host. And
Really?
part of that is like, as a traveler, this new categories thing is great. As a host, they have so many rules that you have to follow to be featured. It's just one more way of them
Jeez.
controlling how you list your own space, is basically incentivizing. Like if you don't have Instant Book on, you can't be featured, because they really push Instant Book. So it's just another way. They do marketplaces for you, but it's another way that they're controlling like how you run your own Airbnb, which hosts have pushed back against. But sorry, Justin, go ahead.
No, I was just going to keep venting about the fact that we're still not under the A-frame category.
Right.
I tried to follow.
So you have Instant Book on?
Yeah, we have Instant Book on, but we don't have the whole year open at the same. I mean, I try to have the first picture be an obvious A-frame picture. I use A-frame in all my captionings too much, probably. I'm just trying to trick the algorithm, and it's not working. So anyway, that's just my vent session.
It's a good keyword.
Yeah, right. Pretty obvious. That's pretty obvious.
A-frame.
That and Tiny House. I think Tiny House is probably the most popular one on Instagram and all of that.
Yeah.
Because we get reposted by Tiny House accounts all the time. And then inevitably people get really mad in the comments and they're like, this isn't a tiny house.
Yes.
I know, guys. I know. Everywhere. I didn't put it there.
What's the square footage cut off for a tiny house? Is it 1,000?
I say
Levi knows better than me. Yeah.
500. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And we're at 800, so people are very quick to let us know that we are not a tiny house.
Small.
What are you
but that's not...
What are you most excited about when it comes to hosting now, rather than just traveling? You actually get to be part of the hosting side.
I'm finally excited to show my audience, that I have one now after showing, 200 to you guys. Now you can come be at mine, and it's kind of like full circle, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that.
Anything that makes you nervous?
Yeah, deaths. If somebody were to die there, that's like my worst fear. That would be horrible. Or if anybody even getting injured. I'm gonna start
worrying about that.
No, I'm.
That was not my fear, but it is now.
I mean, that won't happen, but it's just that'd be horrible. But if anybody getting injured, or if like a storm happens and the whole place, if somebody catches the place on fire, anything like that. Or, those annoying guests that will complain no matter what you do. Those, I'm nervous for those.
Yeah, tiny houses, though, I will say my first Airbnb is a larger cabin, and we sleep 8 to 10. We were just talking about this before we started recording. Versus Cozy Rock, which we host mostly couples, sometimes 4 people. There is a drastic difference in interacting with guests that are managing groups. Because if you're booking an Airbnb for you and your friends or your family, you're responsible for like 6 to 8 other people. So you're more apt to get upset about things because you feel like you have to like make the best trip for the people that you're bringing along.
I see. Yeah.
If you're a couple or a really small group, most people are pretty flexible and like willing to go with the flow. And if it's just them that's being impacted, they tend to be, it's a lot easier. So a tiny house feels like a good way to start.
True. That's a good point. Okay.
So a lot of our folks listening are cabin owners who are always thinking about how to market their cabin. What advice would you have about the best ways for owners, especially of unique spaces? What should they be thinking about that they might not be?
To market, I think they need to make their place findable outside of Airbnb. You got to have an Instagram account and like a way for people to just message you, because there's so many restrictions on Airbnb messages. I've been banned, it's like 6 times or something on Airbnb just through their messaging.
Wait, why?
Because I would always try to reach out on Airbnb in the beginning to be like, hey, I have this YouTube channel. Would you be interested in doing something together? But you're not allowed to do that on Airbnb. They'll block out like all social media names, account, anything. So it's like, if you have a name for your place like Airbnb, then I just search it on Instagram. It's so easy to find. And then I get to the point of, you should be working with um, influencers, if you want to call them that, and then they can really show you off your place to the audience. Because like you mentioned, Dirt and Glass, and went viral. There's some of the places I show go viral, and they'll get 40 bookings and whatever if they
Right.
have that many nights available. So that is like just getting people to even just know about your place. They don't even have to book it. They might book it 2 years later because they know.
Right. Right. Now, I will say the world is becoming more familiar with the term influencer, and there are more and more influencers kind of joining this world of unique stays and Airbnbs. How does a cabin owner, differentiate between influencers and know, because we get offers all the time from folks to stay
Yeah,
there
I
in
bet you do.
exchange for photos and stuff. How would you recommend weeding through that and figuring out who is worth it?
You just got to look at their engagement. So if they post stuff, how many likes are they getting? How many comments? If they have 1 million followers, but they only get like 3 or 4 comments, then there's something wrong. So if they're
Yeah.
getting lots of engagement, you could ask like, how many shares do your photos get and stuff? And I could, they'll get thousands of shares and be like, okay, that's pretty cool. Thousands of people are talking about this on Instagram in their DMs or whatever.
Yeah.
So
How do you get that information? How would a cabin owner get that information?
Like from the influencer?
Yeah, like how would we find out how many, like I know how on my side to see what our engagement rate is, but if an influencer messaged me, can I ask them for like a media kit or like their engagement rates, or like what do you ask for?
I would ask for their media rate, especially unless you can just obviously tell in their profile. But yeah, you could ask for their media kit.
Okay.
Their media
And
kit,
then
for those who don't know what that is.
It's like a 1-page document thing that kind of highlights all your channels and like the demographic, the engagements you get on all your posts and stuff like that, I guess.
Got it.
So, and then it's just what's worth it to you. How big of an influencer do you want, or how little? How much do you want to pay for them, or if they're not even asking for money? I'm sure you get a ton of people asking for free stays, and they're just like randoms.
Yes.
But though I will say Pete Long, who built the original Raven House and designed Cozy Rock and is now a good friend, one of the things he said to me, and when I met him, the Raven House had like almost 50,000 followers on Instagram. And I asked him about that. And he said, I never said no to someone who wanted a free stay in exchange for photos, ever. He said, I always said yes. And he said, some of them didn't have many followers, but I always got good photos for it. And as a result, I had the content I needed. And he said, and I love this about Pete, but he was also like, it's just good energy. If someone wants to stay there and take photos for you, and like, it's just, I think Sean would say it's good vibes only.
That's right.
That's right. Lots of
Keep
good
the energy
vibes.
levels nice.
True,
And
that's
I think
another way you can go about it.
Which is so different than being really picky about it. And I've done both at different stages. Like sometimes I've just been like, yes, you want a free stay and we'll take photos for me. Okay. And then other times I've been like, more hesitant about it and more like researching how big their audience is and where are they located and things like that. But I think it's a tricky thing for anyone who's trying to use influencers to really know what makes a good one.
Yeah. I think if you just get a bad feeling, just avoid it.
I think on the influencer side of things, maybe to help them out, like for us, we get booked initially weekends. Like we're booked weekends way out. Obviously, I think that's pretty typical for most Airbnbs. But if you can be flexible with your dates, I think that helps a ton, because then if you're coming it, and when I mean flexible, I mean like week or two before. I know that's tough for people, but a week or two before, and we notice like we don't have people staying that week, like of course it makes perfect sense to have someone in there and get some cool shots and some cool content. But if you're asking 3 months out, in my head that could possibly be booked for us, so it's like now I'm trading some of the income I might get for that month to cover whatever we have to cover, heat, trash, whatever. But if you're closer to that date, then it's a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, we can get you in there, get you out. We can get some cool stuff.
Yeah. But for the big influencers, I feel like, for example, Levi, we would clear our calendar for you if you ever wanted to come to Maine. But for the bigger influencers, I'm sure they have to plan their own schedule pretty far in advance too, if there's huge demand for them to come there. So then it's like, it just is tricky. It gets tricky.
To be clear, I think coming from Ohio to get to Maine, I think you're going to cross right through southern Vermont. So we'd also open our calendar if you wanted to stop before you went to, just to be clear. One of those.
Yeah, I want to go in summer.
Yes.
Sure, it's open.
Yes. I promise that is not why we invited you on the podcast, just to hound you to come to our cabins. I promise. Yeah. So we've been chatting for a while. So let's wrap up with, I would love to know one thing about you as a human that most people don't know just by looking at you.
Oh man. What did I put on the thing? I forget.
I don't think I asked that question on the pre-interview.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah,
I thought you did.
Well, I asked a little bit about you, but just something that people wouldn't know by looking at you.
Faith is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, number one. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time involved with my local church and stuff.
Yeah.
So between that and then being a dad and then what I do with YouTube, that's a lot. I forget what else I put. I used to want to make movies. I still do.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
My senior year, I said I was going to be in any role in a Star Wars film. That was the main goal. Either a PA on the set or a background or whatever. That was the goal. Dropped out of college, got fired. What else? I play guitar.
I love those. I love those too, because I feel like getting fired, and obviously I can relate to you, so I'm probably biased here, but I feel like it's that thing that is so taboo as this bad thing, and in fact can be the thing that changes your life in a different direction. That's what it's meant to be. Yes. I love that.
And I always want to do YouTube. So even if I don't do tours forever, I'll do something else on YouTube. So I like it.
Yeah. What's next for you in 2023? For you, your family, your YouTube channel, what's next?
Up getting the AirBNB listed for people to come stay at. Trying to really improve my YouTube channel, just change things up a little bit, make it a little bit better. And those two things, really.
I love it. Can you tell folks before we wrap up, and we'll obviously put this in the show notes. Is that a thing? We'll figure it out before we share this. Your contact info, but let folks know how they can find you and where all the places they can find you.
Levi Kelly, Levi M as in Monkey Kelly on Instagram. My email's levi@levimkelly.com. That's also my website where everything's kind of summed up there. And that's about it.
What a treat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much for listening. And if you like what you heard, feel free to leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or share some of your favorite parts over on Apple Podcasts and a review. If you have any suggestions for guests or feedback, you can always find us on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin and The Chalet Frame, spelled CHALA. See you next week, and thanks for joining us.